Got it. Thanks for doing that. Appreciate it. Yeah. Good morning from Denver, Colorado. Good afternoon if you're out east in the DC area. I'm Brian Fox. I'm with Omni Federal and partnering here with ATARC in our DevOps community of practice tech sync. For everyone that's listening in, this is about open market research, allowing folks to understand the tools and capabilities that are available to allow folks in government to do DevSecOps better, faster, easier, and to see what's available, some of the tools that are available. So that's what we're doing today. This event is recorded. We'll get this posted later, but we have Harness today. They're up and they're going to be presenting. Nicole or Maddie, anything else before we get going?
Nope, nothing on our end.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Otherwise, Derek, without any further ado, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Brian. I'm actually going to turn it over to Anton to do a little introduction around Harness and an overview of our company. And then it'll be Luke Herter, who is our Federal SE Manager, who will do a quick platform demo of our modules.
Awesome. Hey, I don't think, I know we have just 30 minutes here. I don't know that we're going to get into a demo in 30 minutes, but I just want to do a quick introduction to the Harness team. So I'll go first and then Derek and Luke. So I'm Anton Hoffman. I lead our Air Force, Space Force, Combatant Command, and Systems Integrator business. Joined Harness back in December of 2021, so just coming on 6 months. And then before that was at a few other companies. So Mongo, Sneak, PTC, Dell EMC as well. Before that was also in the Marine Corps, so I've kind of been on both sides of the DoD, inside and out. Derek?
Thanks, Anton. Derek Giarratana. I'm the Federal Partner Manager here at Harness. Been here for around 12 months, leading our federal channel from a go-to-market strategy, anywhere from VARs, systems integrators, and services partners. Luke?
Yep, Luke Herter. Been at Harness for about 4 years. I manage our sales engineering team for our federal practice. Come from monitoring space and was a developer / DevOps engineer for about 10 years prior to that.
Awesome. So can everybody just see my screen? I fired up screen share. Just want to make sure. Is this all coming through? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Looks really good.
Awesome. So we're going to go through, like just kind of a quick overview of Harness. And then I think, in the 30 minutes, kind of taking any Q&A is probably the best next step. If there is applicability, further interest into what you guys are doing, then, I think at that time, a further demo deep dive is the best next step. So before I get into the product, platform, anything like that, as far as like competitors or anything like that, it's really important to understand that modern software development delivery has changed drastically to what it is today from, what it started as, 30, 40 years ago. So we kind of see three major shifts that have happened over the last 40 plus years. And just to kind of take you through each of those, right? Basic IT operations were incredibly manual early on in the 1980s, right? So everything was waterfall, not fast, not scalable, and everything related to development and delivery revolved around the ticketing system. So you submit a ticket, you sit around and you wait, bugs, fixes, updates, pushing apps to production. This is essentially why things moved very slow. And kind of in this Gen 2 phase, as people started to say, well, how can we work faster? How can we collaborate better? People started to say, hey, we can not only bring developers and operations teams together, we can also introduce scripts, right? So they said we can provide some automation that will help to offload a lot of these manual processes. And that was true at the time. But what people didn't really do the calculus on is when you start to introduce scripts, you not only need people and time to build those scripts, but you also have to maintain them, right? So as the pipeline gets bigger, more complex, as your workloads get bigger and more complex, the way you're actually scripting and connecting all those elements together gets very, very complicated and very time consuming. And so from an automation perspective, it's kind of false automation in the sense that you don't really get it until you've built it. And that's not really what automation is. Automation is fully extracting the human beings from having to produce it, right? So where we are today is developer self-service, right? When we think about DevOps, DevSecOps in the modern form and fashion, developers are way more autonomous today than they were, 10 or 15 years ago, right? They are writing their own custom code. They're pulling in open source code. They're doing security in the build. They're even pushing apps to production by themselves hundreds or thousands of times a day, right? When we think about the most agile and fast moving organizations, they are really, pushing apps to production multiple times a day, right? New features, new updates, even new applications. So why is developer self-service, why are we calling it an intelligent era? Two major reasons. The first is we are bringing in full-blown automation, right? So it's nothing that you have to build, nothing that you have to maintain. And number two, we're layering in artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? So what is that actually producing? Well, it's producing a more effective developer such that they can move faster and scale better by leveraging those two components. So where we see most organizations today is really somewhere in this Gen 2 DevOps kind of scripted world. And that's perfectly fine, right? Like 95% of organizations are still here. And what we're saying at Harness is there's more speed, there's more scale as it relates to software delivery. And that's what we're helping organizations achieve. So some of the major barriers that we run into when we talk to folks is like, hey, what is stopping you from delivering software faster, right? Say you're deploying every 6 months and you want to be deploying every month, right? What is standing in the way of that? It's usually these four things. The first and second kind of go together, but when there's too much scripting on the CI side, and here we're talking about raw code into artifact, that can often slow you down, right? Over testing in this way. And then when you think about an entire end-to-end CI/CD pipeline, when you're trying to build that all manually, all by yourself, not a trivial task, like very, very difficult to do. And it requires a lot of people. And then when we get into kind of the last two components, if you don't have a single platform to manage delivery, you're often going to many different tools. If you don't have a single process or you don't have clean native integrations into big systems, big investments that you've made, so APM, notifications, cloud, etc. If you don't have those clean native integrations, you're going to have to build them. You're going to have to maintain them on your own. So when we look at kind of a CI/CD pipeline end to end, and we look at kind of the major building blocks or components of a CI/CD pipeline, again, we're isolating kind of on the CI side, code to artifact. But if I'm a developer supporting an organization, supporting the mission, it's really when I have an artifact that I say, hey, I want to take this into production as fast as possible, right? I have this deployable artifact. What is standing in my way of deploying this? Well, all of these things, right? I got to script through my cloud infrastructure, change management, release strategy. I have to essentially and effectively build all of those things. That is what is slowing down my ability to go into production. So at Harness, at a very, very high level from a CI/CD perspective, where we really got our name, we are basically taking that artifact into production as fast as possible by configuring that entire pipeline, right? We're delivering that to you as a service in that very way. So analogy I like to use to help people understand this a little bit better. A lot of folks compare Harness to Jenkins, right? And they're really two tools on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Jenkins is commonly open source, used for CI and CD. It is 95% manual labor and about 5% tool. So not a lot of tool, but a lot of labor. Harness is the complete opposite. We are 95% tool and 5% labor. And what that labor component really means is, sure, you got to tell us that you're using Kubernetes and you got Terraform and you want a canary deployment. After you give us those basic inputs and parameters, now we configure the rest of the pipeline and you're off to the races. So let me just pause there before I go any further. Any questions? Does this all resonate? Anything you want me to double click on before I go kind of next level?
No, Anton, just I'm going to say it in plain language, perhaps to almost like back brief you that essentially as organizations, because it could be in government or even private industry, right? As they look to implement DevOps, they can essentially create an underlying layer of technical debt, because now there's another thing to develop and build, implement, and maintain, right?
Exactly.
That when you take those things, like you described, Jenkins, it's one of many tools that could be implemented. But now you have to keep it and everything else and everything working together, running. And so Harness being something that's essentially end to end, and allows an organization that there's probably a good reason to for a well-financed or larger organization to build out their own platform. But for some organizations, it probably makes sense to just click done, and you do that kind of soup to nuts capability. So they're focusing on delivering value to the user and not trying to keep the factory running. Am I getting it right?
Yeah, 100%. And maybe just to take that one step deeper, right? So if your folks are having to dedicate their hours and their time to building scripts, maintaining scripts, then the opportunity cost of that is they are not adding new features, adding new updates, or pushing applications into production that support the warfighter, right? Like those manual activities are what we call toil, because it's really non-value adding, right, to the mission, right? The warfighters don't really benefit from somebody, writing thousands of lines of Python to connect everything together, right? They get value by saying, hey, I need this new application that does X, Y, Z. How fast can you deliver it to me, right? And so that's how we kind of think of the major value component of Harness is really an opportunity cost. If you can automate, fully automate putting together your pipelines, then all those people that were otherwise building the automation and maintaining the automation can do other things that are more valuable, right? Now, in some cases, there may be a use case, where folks say, hey, the flexibility inside of Jenkins that allows me to just, completely configure everything to the spec that I want. Perhaps those use cases exist. I would argue they are fringe use cases versus more common use cases, right? Most folks, 95% of people, do not want the headache of having to build and maintain that. They simply want their pipelines pre-configured to take their artifacts into prod as quickly as possible. So yeah, I think you pretty much summarized that right on the head. So maybe just to kind of go a step further into benefits and ROI of the Harness platform, and we kind of already touched on one right there. But first and foremost, right, it's helping organizations deploy their applications faster, right? What does this actually translate into? Moving at the speed of need, speed of mission, speed of requirement from a government perspective. And how are we doing that? Again, compressing all of that time to create and instantiate a pipeline. The second piece is governance. So if organizations are moving as fast as they want to and deploying as fast as they want to, generally, they will say, hey, how do we actually start to tighten our governance, right? How do we strengthen our DevSecOps practice? How do we standardize our deployment methodology? We can help with that in kind of two major ways. Number one, layering in auditing and compliance, very, very granular down to the keystroke in the platform, and then also pulling in zero trust. So for us, that's RBAC, SSO, secrets management. That is very, very important to our value. The third piece is kind of starting to get into code quality and really starting to get in more optimization. So this is where AI ML comes into play for us. We are more skewed towards the ML side than AI. We do have some AI in the background, but it's more ML. The way code quality works for us is, are we sure as users that we're deploying with confidence, right? We're not going to have feature regressions. Things aren't going to break. We're not going to have downtime. We have good metrics to kind of monitor that. That's really where the quality piece comes into play. And the last piece is efficiency and scale, right? So we have a modular platform. I'll show you kind of what that is. But each component can be deployed a la carte by itself in conjunction. We don't, you basically buy what you need. This can help to decrease toolchain sprawl. Yeah.
Oh, just another question for you. If is this available as a service? So like software or platform as a service in cloud environments, and is it also available on-prem? Because some government organizations want to start moving towards DevOps, oddly enough, even while they're on-prem before they move to the cloud.
Yep. And short answer is yes. I got a slide that kind of breaks down each of the products and the deployment. But yeah, two major deployments, cloud, SaaS, fully managed, and then on-prem. And we'll talk about some of the kind of puts and takes there. But really, last piece to efficiency and scale is like we're a developer first tool set, right? So developers are going to use us. We need to be easy to use, easy to integrate, so that user adoption is seamless. Simple as that. So just kind of getting into the platform. Again, 7 products today. So when we started out as a company back in 2016, we were just focused on CD, right? We said, hey, in the CD space right now, you know, Jenkins, Argo, Flux, Spinnaker, they're all open source tools. They're not differentiated. Nobody is providing pure automation for CD. How do we actually come into the market and differentiate? And that's where our AI, ML, and automation just took off. But then since then, we said, well, we're trying to be more of a software delivery platform to cover all aspects of delivery. So build, deployment, post-deployment. What activities do we need to, you know, actually capture here in our roadmap? And so that's kind of given way to the platform today. So just to go through real quick and anchor folks, we have our own CI. It is powered by drone.io. So we've built, you know, a paid experience on drone.io. We compete with GitLab, GitHub, you know, Jenkins CI, Circle CI, CloudBees in this way. Drone.io is actually the most popular CI solution in the world. I actually just learned that recently based on some new data. But one of the key differentiators for us here is something called test intelligence. So a lot of folks will over test in the CI phase, right? Code to artifact, they test everything. And in reality, you don't need to test everything. You just need to test a subset. And how are we able to identify that subset? Well, with AI ML. So just to give you size and scale, over a year and a half since we released continuous integration for Harness, we've saved 21,500 engineering hours just in that year and a half by testing smarter. So we use our own tooling, seen massive time savings just on the CI side. The second product is called Security Test Orchestration. So myself, coming from the app security space, very familiar with, you know, container scanning, AST or SCA, static analysis as well. We are not a scanner, right? So things like Twistlock, Fortify, Anchor, we leave the scanning to those scanning engines. We are an orchestrator. So we have 60 integrations across SCA, static, dynamic, container scanners. We ingest all of that data into security test orchestration. So if you are running 5 different static analysis tools and 1,000 developers are running them, we first consolidate and aggregate all of that scan data. We then deduplicate the vulnerabilities, prioritize those vulnerabilities so you have a unique list. And then the third component of this product is tying all that security data back into the pipeline. So now you're creating a continuous ATO style development process, pure DevSecOps, that is governed by policy, such that if I'm a developer and I don't fix one of these scans that has been uniquely identified, or don't fix one of the vulnerabilities that's been uniquely identified, or I don't run a scan at a certain point in the pipeline, my artifact is no longer able to progress, right? So we are literally throttling what can and cannot go through the pipeline based on security. It's all done within this product. There's really nothing out there in terms of a comparable product that does exactly what I just said. Third component is chaos engineering, kind of a new topic, but this looks at kind of resiliency of your system. It says, you know, if XYZ scenario were to happen in production, what's the fallout? What's the result? Helps to kind of build resiliency for organizations on the front end. So that's on the build side. Deployment side, again, continuous delivery. How can we help you get your artifact into deployment as fast as possible? We have 2 types of deployments out of the box. So we have Canary and Blue-Green. Those are traditionally very difficult to build on your own and actually script out. So that's why we provide them out of the box. Those are very unique to Harness. Feature flagging is, again, kind of a newer concept, but how do you release and manage features at scale? So if you had an application and there's 100 different features in it, one of them just isn't working the way you want, how do you pull that feature down and abstract it from the app without having to take the entire application offline? That's what we're doing with feature flags. So you flip a flag or Boolean toggle, down comes that feature, you work on it, and then you can populate it back into the production app. So last piece, kind of, you know, post-production or production forward, 2 major solutions. The first is cloud cost management. So it is our fastest growing module. We can look at all of the cloud providers, Kubernetes and container workloads. We very much, compete with CloudCheckr, Cloud Health, all the CSP provided cost solutions. We also compete with, what's the other one? KubeCost. So we have something called auto stopping, which allows us to shut down idle infrastructure and then spin it back up. We can also help with right sizing. So if you're over provisioned, we can help to say, hey, you're running a Ferrari over here. You only need to be running a Honda, and kind of do that right sizing. Those two features are unique to us. There's nobody else that can do the intelligent auto stopping that we can do. And one of the kind of effects of this is the amount of cloud savings, right? So I believe the common statistic right now is 35% of cloud spend is waste. And that's kind of, commonly accepted by the market. We've used this tool internally. We've saved 75% of our cloud costs in 1 year, right? So you cut out 75% of our cloud costs in a year just from shutting down and spinning up those idle components of infrastructure. Last piece is service reliability management. So how do you ensure that you're delivering on SLOs, SLAs, and staying within error budgets? That is all what we're doing with service reliability. So again, 7 products can all be deployed individually. Quick company background, just so you know who we are, where we came from. We were founded in 2016, based in San Francisco. We did not release any product until 2018. So it took 2 years to train our AI ML. And our founder is Jyoti Bansal. So if you ever heard of App Dynamics, it was a pretty big APM company that was sold to Cisco and is now owned by Cisco for about $3.7 billion. So Jyoti founded that company and then came over to Harness to break into the CICD space. Last few slides, just to kind of bring us to the end here. So unique differentiators and, who are we competing with, right? In each of those categories. I'll go through in a moment. 4 major unique differentiators. The first is modular platform, okay? All those components deployed individually. Agnostic integrations, very important to our story. Security in our roadmap and our product, and then also our use of AI ML. So this is kind of the competitive landscape, right? Incredibly fragmented, a lot of different folks doing a lot of different things. What you'll notice is there's no single competitor that has all of these elements under one roof. That's really where, we're providing a ton of differentiation and really helping to avoid toolchain sprawl. Agnostic integrations are super important. So we have over 100 different integrations. We want to essentially meet you where you already are, right? You've made investments in cloud, notifications, SCM, APM, et cetera. How can we come in and orchestrate what you have already built, what you are already doing today in a more efficient way? That is effectively the best way to think of Harness, right? We are kind of this central hub or this umbrella that can really take over and sit on top of the tooling that you already have, provide that native connectivity and conduit between everything, and instantiate those pipelines very quickly and very easily. Last 2 slides, government customers, where are we working today? Right now in the DoD, Navy, NIWC, LANT. This is a cross-domain use case. So we're helping with going from IL2 to IL4 in their production environment. The Air Force, I onboarded our first Air Force customer in no less than 6 months. Never seen that at any other tech company I've ever worked at, but they're using our CI, security test, and CD products across about 500 users. So very, very large install. That is based at Tinker Air Force Base with the Thunder Camp software factory. So very, very exciting partnership there. No IC customers yet. And then civilian side, NASA, Census, EPA, FAA, and have something that's getting ready to come through with FEMA. So they will be kind of our next civilian agency. So I joined in December. Our Fed practice didn't start until July of last year. So we're just coming up on 12 months calendar year. We haven't even eclipsed a 12-month government fiscal. So to have these logos in such a short period of time not only speaks to the tech that we have, but also the challenges we're helping to solve. Last question on the deployment method. So 2 major ways: fully managed multi-tenant SaaS. We are not FedRAMP, so no government customers are using this deployment yet. We intend to be. We have some civilian agencies we're talking about sponsorship with, but for right now, everybody else is operating here. So self-managed on-prem, we are running CI, chaos, CD, feature flag, and service reliability. We expect to have security test here in a couple weeks, hit our on-prem, and then cloud cost management around August, September timeframe. So on-prem to us is either a Kubernetes cluster or a VM. You can deploy it either method. It can be fully connected or disconnected, fully air-gapped. Totally up to you guys if you do that. And then the other kind of tertiary deployment that's not listed here is Platform One. So I'm sure folks on the call know Platform One. We contracted Defense Unicorns to do our container hardening for CI and for CD. So that is actually getting wrapped up here in a few weeks, and we'll have our images in the Iron Bank. They will also be certified through a Big Bang deployment as well. And then we will be hardening our security test module ourselves with our internal engineering department. So I know I left like 3 minutes for questions. I kind of went through, did like a comprehensive overview. I hope I answered most questions, but what questions can I help to clarify?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, John Socia here. I work in the DevSecOps pipeline area with ATARC. So it looks like you've separated the continuous integration from the continuous delivery. So how am I able to map like a requirement, let's say a requirement 123 that went in the build number 655, how can I map to what's deploying in production now? In other words, how do you connect the holy grail up? Like what's running in production to the requirements and all the great stuff that happened in between when an audit happens?
Yep. Great question. I'm going to defer to my smarter half, Luke.
Yeah, sure. So I would say that we have separated it in so much as we allow people to choose to like, do you want to do everything in Harness? Do you want to do all CI, like from source code into production with Harness? Or do you just want to use Harness for CI or just use Harness for CD? So if you want that complete end-to-end picture, we absolutely have lots of customers that leverage Harness and really can see source code into production to customer. Outside of that, if you just want to use Harness artifact forward, then really what we have tight integrations with Jira and ServiceNow to automate the change control process, where we can basically create and update change tickets. You can dynamically populate whatever information that you want into that change ticket. Like here are, this artifact version is linked to these other Jira tickets or whatever it might be, right? And so we've got customers that do it that way through a change control process. Also, we've got other customers that are basically tagging their artifacts with metadata that basically incorporates, all right, this artifact was built from this PR or some link tickets or things like that. So I think that we can out of the box provide that full end-to-end experience. If you're just using Harness for CD, there are multiple ways to kind of trace that artifact that you've deployed back to what it contains. Great question.
Awesome. Any others? I know we got like 1 minute left.
Anton, is it possible for you to pull up on the screen y'all's email address? So if and when folks want to really deep dive with you all.
Let me put it in the chat. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
So that's my email. Feel free to kind of use me as a main point of contact, and I can route to my colleagues if it's related to their agencies. But Brian, I'll send you this PDF of this slide deck just so
great.
And yeah, appreciate it.
Otherwise, thank you all for your time. Sure appreciate it. And y'all's presentation made me think a bit about Wordly mapping, going back to my time at 18F. And if you've seen that, it helps an organization understand where they should be in focusing their limited IT investments and how much should they be custom building versus how much should they be buying or just building, right? Yep. Or just buying versus building. So anyway, I think that would help some folks come to understand Wordly mapping could help folks understand the overall costs they've taken on by trying to custom build everything from a DevOps or DevSecOps standpoint. Yeah, anyway, fascinating. This is
awesome.
Really interesting. Yep. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Take care.
And we'll catch everyone on the next Tech Sync next month. So
Absolutely.
Sure looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Brad.
Bye.
Thank you.